Thank you very much. We have just 10 minutes now to have a little Q&A or a discussion, just to offer context again about what we've been doing. Essentially what you've seen tonight are excerpts of works that we've been doing over the last 10 days, where we've been to 6 different towns in Wales, 5 different towns so far, Hay being the 6th. And each night these pairs between us that we've shown you kind of snippets of tonight have been part of rather large readings with 10 pairs or 7 pairs. And what we thought we'd do tonight is share parts of that. So we hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, please shout them out now for the last 10 minutes. If not, we'll just chat. Please, sir, go ahead for any of us. Or madam.
I'm a poet from Canada, so it's really interesting to see what you've been doing here together. I had 2 questions as you were reading. One, how did you find each other? Are you all from the same community, or academic, or community of poets? And also, for each of the poems that you did perform in pairs, did you create them in pair? Like, did you share in the diction choices and the rhythms together, or were they just created with one poet and then performed together?
I think the first question I'll hand over to Nia, who's really been the driving force behind the Gelynion project in Wales.
Hi, thanks for your question. We are sort of from different communities but intersecting in different areas. I edit the magazine Poetry Wales, so I have worked with all these poets, and many of the poets are also involved in the other events as well. But we are from slightly different communities, different language communities, and different. And some of us didn't know each other before we came together. So yeah. And what's the second part?
So when each Enemies project goes to different countries, really it works by me having the pleasure to work with a co-curator, and there's always a very natural coming together of the group who form the core poets. In this case it was incredibly organic, because everyone here really complements each other, not only in their differences in their styles, but also they all share the fact that they're very keen to do it, they're very open to collaboration, very positive, kind of warm human beings to be around. And Gelynion fell into place a year before it started in terms of who we wanted to be the people, because of these people. And everyone here is Welsh, apart from me. So I'm the cheeky smuggler. Perhaps, Joe, you'd like to speak about the collaborations you did to answer the second question?
In terms of the collaborations, I think we tried to be as unified as possible, and we actually wanted to make the things together. In some cases, I guess, we weren't able to do it until, well, some of the collaborations started weeks ago before we met, over email, pinging things back and forth. Others occurred in the 2 hours before the events, when sometimes we just met each other that day. So there was a mix, and so I guess sometimes you felt like whatever was produced was a decision you were making line by line together, and other times maybe your different voices were being slotted back and forth. But it was always a collaborative thing, and I guess in the ways that collaborations can be a million different shapes. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes the cadences were similar in the fact that when I worked with Eurig, I was trying to do Cynghanedd, which is his thing, so they would have sounded similar, but other times the cadences were different. And I started, another interesting anecdote is that I started text stalking Joe before our collaboration, which I'm sure helped no end.
Yeah, he texted me, and I didn't know it was him. He said, "This is your literary stalker, Kiss." This was before, I didn't have his number in my phone because I was only meeting Rhys this week. I obviously texted back, "That's great, I'm so excited to have a literary stalker. Who are you?" And he said, I'm a shy but beautiful poet called Kate. Poetrix called Kate. Of course I was really, really excited now, and I was like, "Oh, that's amazing." I didn't say that. I suspected, to my credit, that a shy but beautiful poetrix called Kate was fictional, but I didn't know who it was until I got Rhys's number in my phone, and the Kate of my mind transformed into Rhys, sort of tragic, tragic moment.
Yeah, I thought that would be our collaboration, and Joe would answer with comedy gold, but he just got a bit scared, so we just cut out dirty books instead.
Any other questions?
I live in the Wrexham area. I don't know if you could help me on this. About 10 of us got together. There's a pub in Wrexham called the South Seren, which is the 7 Stars. And for fun, we did what you did tonight. You know, we wrote about 10 poems. We did 2 nights there in front of the crowd. And we all just did our own thing, basically. And afterwards we thought, is there a way we could get our poems published in a book? And is there a cheap and easy way to do this?
That's a great question.
The answer is no.
Well, you could create a wonderful pamphlet like this, a lo-fi pamphlet, which was printed by Hazard Press. It's turned out very beautifully, and it's not very difficult.
How much did you have to
but yeah.
pay?
Not much, don't say that. So before we started the tour, as a way of, because I've done these enemies projects before, and perhaps my dear friends here had not collaborated so rapidly and so often. And as you say, you just come together with your friends, and that's part of the joy of this. You know, with poetry you can do that because a lot of things are accessible. I asked everyone to write poems together where we all sent a line to each other to kind of warm up the collaborative processes, and then I deliberately removed people's names from their lines as I sent the doc around, so everyone added and chopped up each other's poems. And then we found this amazing press in Cardiff called Hazard Press, who published it all in a limited edition of 60, and they're beautiful handmade little books. So really we had the very same idea that you had. I just got a little bit ahead, and as we started in Newport, he turned up with these 60 things. We had no idea. I just sent him an email. So there's lots of people like that. Hazard Press in Cardiff. There's lots of amazing handmade presses in this country, and also things like print on demand. It's very accessible now. It's a bit of a new age of publishing. So you can do it yourself, for sure.
What made you decide on that title of Gelynion?
It means enemies in Welsh. The project is called Enemies, so when we've done it in Mexico, it was enemigos. When we've done it in Poland, it was rogofie. It's the word for enemies in those languages. And enemies is just ironic, you know. Your best friends are your enemies because you care what they think, I suppose. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions? We just have a few minutes left. Well, I would like to ask Eurig very much how he found it working in both languages while collaborating with people who were primarily bilingual outside of Rhys, and how it differed from his normal practice, because he comes from a different tradition than the rest of us.
Well, thanks. To be honest, it wasn't that different, because in terms of collaboration, it happens quite often in Welsh language poetry anyway. I'm used to writing as part of a team, for example, in the Ymryson, in the National Eisteddfod. So this wasn't as different. The only difference maybe was that we weren't competing against another team. We were just competing amongst ourselves, maybe, to a certain degree. So I found that going into that groove very enjoyable and very easy, actually. Yeah, writing in these 2 languages, I relish this opportunity to do that, to be honest, because most of the opportunities I get to write poetry and to perform poetry too is in Welsh. It's a great thing. It's brilliant. I can live my life in Aberystwyth almost all the time, from day to day, through the medium of Welsh, and that goes for the poetry too. So to get an opportunity to write in English and to perform in English and both languages together was very, very exciting for me, and that's what the main thing I will take from this amazing project. Was that great opportunity. I found that it works, I think. There are many other possibilities also to be had from using both languages together, which is just not something that happens very often or naturally in Wales otherwise. So this feels like a great one-off, and I hope it won't be as much a one-off. So yeah, that's what I would take from it.
We've got just a minute or so left, so I'd like to ask one last question to Zoe. Zoe is really a pioneer in Wales, former editor of Poetry Wales, someone I've looked up to for a long time. I just wonder, after it's finished now and we've had 300-400 people come to these events, whether or not it feels like whether Gelyonion's been indicative of a bit of a new moment, because you've seen over the last couple of decades how Wales has been, and whether or not you think, you know, there's been an impact from the project, or what your experience of it has been.
Oh, well, I certainly hope so. And I think you know, one of the things that was really exciting was the kind of venue that we were performing in Newport, Swansea and Cardiff, which are these kind of reclaimed spaces, empty shops or other sort of repurposed spaces, and places where sort of community groups or artists had sort of moved in to make something happen, and it was really exciting to be part of that as well. So apart from what we were doing, sort of thinking about how poetry might connect up with these other artistic communities in those places. So